Welcome to TelcoBridges ProSBC TechTrained Module 109, covering the ProSBC web portal used to access the SBC for configuration, management, and diagnostics. In this module, Luke will cover how to connect to the portal, log in, manage users, configurations, and perform system backups.
So I'm just going through this. There's maybe some functions you don't know exist in the web interface. So I'm showing some of the things like users, status, hardware units in this presentation. So as you did before, you can access the system with HTTP. We use a port here that's a default port. It's something historical in our system. To access the web interface, management IP of the system. Like I said, you can have the default management IP, or you can create more management IPs to access the system. And you can also configure HTTPS. I haven't seen many customers use it, but it's there. So you can protect your, encrypt your data that you're sending to the system. And you can change the port as well here to be something else than 12358. Here, when you log into the system, you can see the version it's running right now. If you are connected on the primary or the secondary host, it doesn't matter if you're primary or secondary host. You can do everything from both of the interfaces. However, the thing you must do from the primary host is to upgrade the system. You need to upgrade the system from the primary host. Okay. The rest can be done anywhere. Here also we've added this. So if you're ProSBC, it's going to show Pro. If you're free, it's going to show free. Well, that's a nice feature. And then here on the side you have stuff for configuration. You can see the status of the system to do your backups. You have an overview of the calls you have in the system. So right there on the front page, you see how many calls are in the system. Very useful for us in support when we get access to a system from the customer, and then we see there's 5,000 calls. So we say, okay, wait. We won't try to change something, right? So so it's good to have this first page. First thing here is the login and user. So you have the web users down here. You can the default when you configure install the system is root, and then you have admin access. You have access to everything. Of course, you can restrict this by going to the web users here, and you have here read, write, or no access. So each of the elements in the web interface here can be set for different user as read, write, read only, or no access at all. No access means he won't even see it. When he logs into the system, he won't see it. So you can give that to someone just to verify the status of the system. So you can see, you can put read here for the status. So status, you see information from the system, but you can also sometimes do some actions live on the system. Okay, so there's some, when you see in the web interface apply states, it will apply it immediately. Okay. So you have the groups here, and then you have the web users that you can add here. The password by default will be, needs to be a complex password, but you can change this here in security settings to remove the complexity of the password. Here, if you add your email address, it will send an email to you if a license will expire. What other reason it will send an email? But you know, it can send information to you, so you can add it here. It's going to be registered in our license server here, and then it's going to send information out. Okay. Then you have the configurations. Right? Different configurations you can have in the system. Here I have 3 configurations. Config 1 is like the default. When you get in the system the first time, config 1 has almost nothing in there. And then you can create other configurations. You can see them here. And this one is the active one. Okay, so this here is the displayed configuration, the one that you can configure in the panel here. And this one is the active configuration, which is also shown here. So you have the active configuration. And you can, if you click here on configure now, or if you choose it here, then you'll change the configuration. If there's a little star here, that means it has been modified, but it was not applied. Okay. So when you do some changes, you will see that.
Configuration is kept in the database? Or?
Configuration is kept in the database. So every time you do a change, let's say you take this configuration here, and you do one change, it's going to be stored in the database for that particular configuration. And it stays there. Okay.
Can it be the database outside of the system, or it should be
The database is always inside the system.
inside?
You can, however, download it. So it's in the backup. Oops, backup here. So you can do backup, and that's what it does. It just does a MySQL dump of the database. Yeah, exactly. I will show you that.
Yeah.
Can I back up to a question on the users for a second?
Users?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Set up
sure.
a user group, and can there be a default filter set on like the naps and stuff for certain users for a user group?
A filter, you mean?
They would only see a certain group.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Just a few naps. No.
No.
No. No, the most resolution we have is one of those menus here.
Okay.
So you will have just a bit lower naps. So it's read, but you see them all.
Does it? I know there's a filters area there, but does it save each time that user comes back in? Like, could you save it to the user profile?
Save what to the user profile?
There's the filter area that's above the naps, so you can select how you want to filter.
Yeah.
Custom columns or whatever.
Yeah.
Right? Does that save the next time they log back in, or do they have to set it each time?
I think you have to redo it.
Just to redo it each time?
Yeah. Some of them we have put a save button, but I think it's not everywhere.
I couldn't
And-
recall there being one, but that's.
Yeah, so if there's none, then you can't do it. I know, like in when you do routing script tests, you have a save button. So you can save it there. If you a test call, you can do save, but filtering, it's not there. This is every time you do a save, this will get updated to the latest time a save was done. Or if we create a new configuration, of course, it's going to be shown here. And also activated. Last time it was activated, so you can see the time it was activated. So it can give you some clues. I didn't show it here, but in the audit logs, you can see which user has activated which configuration or modified which configuration. Okay, I'll show you that. This is the star here. So there's two main ways to configure the system. Since we are used, well, in my team in support, we're used to do it, so we always modify the active configuration. So what we do is we get on config, the first configuration, we modify it, we validate it, make sure we didn't make any mistakes, and we just activate the configuration, and then it becomes the new config A. Right? However, the thing is, if you modify the configuration and you made a mistake, or a mistake that the web interface can detect. Okay? So for example, if you put the wrong IP address, well, we won't be able to detect it. We can only detect if it's the wrong format of the IP address. Okay? But there's a lot of things that can be verified, and it will be. And if you try to activate this configuration, well, it's still going to be config A that is there, but not with the new configuration. So now you're in a situation where you have a configuration which doesn't work, and you cannot reactivate. Right? So you need to fix that configuration. So the way to fix it is to just remove the changes you have done. But if you don't know which changes have been done, could have been done by someone else, you need to go in the audit logs and check what was changed, right? So it's always preferable, it is preferable to copy the configuration, right? Especially if you do big changes, right? Not if you change just one small thing, but if you do a big change. Add a lot of IP interfaces, maybe NAPs and a new routing script, for example. A new routing script is a great idea to copy the configuration first. Copy the configuration, so you have the exact copy of your config A. You modify, but now you modify config B, right? So you make sure this is good by validating it, right? And it will become your new active configuration, like this, when you are ready. So you can do all of these steps here offline. Let's say you do that in the day, right? And then at 10 o'clock at night, like you guys come a lot at 10 o'clock at night, right? And then now you activate it. Just check if it's good, then you go back to sleep, right? So you can do a lot of the work before you do that. If you do that on the active configuration, then you're a bit stuck, right? You cannot activate it. If someone else goes and activates it, you're in the middle of something that is risky. Okay, so small, let's say the good way of doing it is like this, right?
Is it dropping the call or
no, unless you do some important changes. Like if you change the network the IP interface, right? So if you change the IP interface, well, the calls on this IP interface will be dropped. But if you add a new route, a new NAP, if you change a NAP IP, if you new routing script, that is not service affecting. Okay. Let's say some of the modules are very clear on which are the service affecting parameters, but sometimes it's not super clear. And I give you an example. We have some SIP quirks. SIP quirks are adjustments to the SIP stack, but they're very low level and pre-compiled into the SIP stack. So if you change one of those, we will reload the SIP stack. So that means you will lose all the calls. Okay? So there's some changes that are more important than others. Most of the cases, once your system is installed, no problem. You can always activate the configuration without losing the calls.
Do you have a list, a priority list or something like that to show that stuff?
Priority?
Well, to show what
Which ones?
would reload the stack.
We documented it on the wiki, but unfortunately it's not in the web portal. So some of them are, but some of them are not. So you don't always see them. But later, we should have some time and I could quickly show you. And it's usually pretty clear what will affect it and or not. In all cases, for major changes, it should be done offline, well, offline, low volume hours, right, as much as possible. True, I have some customers that run 24/7 and full rate all the time, but you have to choose one time where everybody's ready in case something happens. Most of the time, you can just reactivate the old configuration, just go back, oh, okay, and then you check what went wrong, take some logs and stuff like that. But on the wiki, I know we spent some time to document it, but it's not, you can't always see them on the web interface. So the system backup. So we had a question earlier on this morning. What does it does not include into this backup? So you can you just go here and do create to start a new database backup. It's going to take a snapshot of all the database, and then you can go here and download it to an outside system. Right? Just download it out. You can use it for another system or just keep it for recovering this one if something happens. Okay. But what is not included, all right, so it's everything except the network ports. So the network ports, because they are attached to a MAC address on your physical system and you configure it, you know, the initial pages where you configure, you go in different pages and you say, these interfaces are LAN 1, all of these are not into into the configuration portal because they are specific to that system. So that includes also the management IP, because you configure that manually, right? Either with the CentOS commands or our TB change IP command to change the IP address. Product key is specific to that particular system, so it's not stored on in the database. The licenses, which are always live anyway, so you always go to the license server to install the license. And the host role, so if you are standalone, primary or secondary, is not stored also in the database. Okay. So that's what's not stored. Manual database backups are the one you do here. You do create. Either you do it manually, or you can do it in a CentOS. So we have customers who do a cron job. The cron job does a MySQL dump and then pushes it outside automatically. Okay? So you can do that as well. They will show up here. All the manual, the one created here and the one that are created by a cron job. Well, no, it depends where when you do the MySQL dump, depends where you do it. Because this shows a specific directory on the disk. Okay, so these SQL files, if you go and you search for them on the disk, they are just regular files there on the file system. Then you have automatic database backup. So this happens when you upgrade a system. So when you upgrade a system, you say activate new configuration, new package, activate new package. It will take a snapshot of the database here. All right. Then you can also download it later, just in case something goes wrong with the upgrade. I don't remember using one of those automatic backups, but we never know, right? So when you want to restore it, so you have already downloaded the file, you want to restore it, so you can choose the file if it's outside from the system, or if it's already there, then you only need to do validate this database. So the system will go through the database and make sure it's the right format, right? So sometimes files are not fully downloaded and stuff like that, so it's going to just verify the integrity of the database. It validates actually two things, the integrity, but also, let's say here I'm running version 3.1, but my database here is 3.0, right? So from 3.0.56, where this database backup was taken, to my 3.1 I have today, there's some database upgrades that need to be done. So sometimes we add new parameters, right? So it's going to also check, can we take this old database and update it to the new one? It's going to verify that. Once it's validated, then you will have the button recover available. Right? So when you have recover here, this is a major change. Right? This will stop all the applications and use completely, which could be complete different configuration. Could have different naps, different routes, different everything. Right? So it's going to stop everything. Take this new database, reconfigure all of the system. Okay. So you do this only in serious situations, right? Let's say you have a 1+1 system, your database is redundant, so you never need to do this, right? Your database is always on the secondary or the primary, depending on which one, so you don't need to do this. But if you have just a standalone system, then if you want to recover it, that's one way to do it.
1+1, if we upgrade, for example, the first one, can we switch everything to the second one?
No. No, right now our upgrade mechanism will upgrade everything. I think it's going to do it one at a time, but still both of them will be upgraded without your control, I mean. Okay. Yeah, it could be done manually, but it's much more complicated. Yeah.
Is there a standard time to do an upgrade? Is there like a period?
Period?
How long does it
What was the latest one? A few minutes, I guess. A few minutes. Because, okay, so one of the things is if you have a transcoding unit, you need to download the firmware in the transcoding unit for the new version. So that can take 10 to 15 minutes. Right? So, but this can be done before you launch the upgrade. So it can be pre-installed. So if you do that and then the switch over to the new version, 2 minutes maybe, 2-3 minutes. But you can try it, right?
Not on a live system.
Not on a live system.
So the upgrade is service effective?
The upgrade is service affecting, yes.
And when you upgrade here, you're only upgrading the TelcoBridge portion, not the Linux, right? You still have to do the Linux
So-
upgrades.
Okay, so sometimes you need to do the Linux upgrades.
Okay.
Right? You can do it regularly or just before an upgrade. The last one I did actually on my system for taking snapshots, I had to do a Linux upgrade. So when I wanted to do activate new package, they told me it says you have to upgrade the Linux package. So yum update downloads all the packages. This can take 10 minutes. It depends on how long you have done it the last time, and it installs everything. If everything is updated except the kernel, you're fine. If you need to update the kernel, you have no choice. You have to reboot the system. So then you need to reboot, and then you can activate the new configuration. Okay. But these two are independent, but they can both be activated from the web interface.
No other SSH, I don't know, daemon or something, if you upgrade those, they can affect or no? They're not dependent.
The SSH daemons?
Yes.
You mean some that you would have installed yourself?
No, I'm just hypothetical. I'm saying that YAM update will update those.
Okay.
Will affect.
Okay. The way we have that is in the image that we provide you. We have a CentOS, but it's not the regular CentOS. Right? It's our proprietary less number of packages. So all of them are tested when we do our YUM update. So we take only the fixes from each of those modules, we integrate them, test them on our system, and then we release them. So it should be okay. If you on your side install another software on there, then I don't know, right? I can't guarantee anything. Normally it should be okay, but
So this database backup is just configuration or it keeps some other logging or anything else? Or
the audit logs are in the database.
so it can be.
Yeah, but the other logs are not. Let's say the TB router log or the gateway application log, they're not included. You have to do a TB report, which is separate.
So it cannot grow. I don't know how. Usually, what's the size of this database? Can be.
Oh, it's small.
Okay. So
it's
it
small.
won't grow because.
No, but you're right. Initially, the first implementation we did of CDR, we put them in the DB and we stopped that quickly, right? Because it gets very big. The only thing that can affect the database size is, go back. Come on. It is, right? Here I have only 3 configurations, but if you have, like in our test systems, we have maybe 100 configurations and we change for every regression test we do. That takes space in the DB, but for our customers, there's no problem. And you can see, just do a database backup. Let's see the size of. We don't see the size here. We don't see the size, but it's a few megabyte, 1 megabyte. Maybe it's zipped also. SQL is just like flat file, right? So when you zip it, it's pretty efficient.
And that includes all of the configurations?
Yeah, all of them. Here I had 3, so the 3 of them are in here. So if you put them on another, you'll see the three configurations.
So, just a question.
Sure.
So if I have a ProSBC and I want to test some configurations, but I don't want to do it on the production system.
Yep, exactly. Yep, you can do that.
If I take that configuration and I dump it onto a bare metal or a VM or something, but it's not a licensed Pro system, I'm just gonna lose the Pro features, right?
Yes, yes, yes.
So I could still test basic NAP configuration and stuff like that, I'm not gonna lose that.
Yeah, well, anything that is not Pro, you may have trouble
Yeah,
testing
it's not meant to be production, it's meant
Yeah.
to be testing.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it would need to be a Pro as well to test everything. Yeah. Otherwise, it will have some kind of limitations. Yeah, unless you use only the free feature on a Pro system. That's
Right.
yeah. So that could be. So when you recover on your system in the lab, okay, you will be put back in the web interface initially, the configuration interface, because you need to assign which ports are on which networks, because the system doesn't know. You're the only one who knows which one. So it will go back to this and say, well, my WAN interface is on this network, my LAN interface on this network, and you need to have the MAC address to know which one. But the rest should just flow through. Yeah, so you have here the system status. So when you click on status button, you get just an overview of the system. System is like the first page, like the welcome page. We saw that before. Here you can have the number of calls in the system. Hosts is your redundant servers, or maybe you just have one, maybe you have two, so you'll see them here. The SIP stack, the network access point. You see this one is red, so for sure some of them are down. Right? So then you have a radius interface. We'll see that later for either call detail records or for routing. SBC here it's green, so that's good. If you have scheduling problems or other types of things, it may be yellow here. DNS, that's a SIP DNS. Here some of them are unreachable or unknown. Certificates are for TLS, yes. And here we just verify if it's a good format of the certificates. We don't check a lot of other things. Okay. Each one of them, well, you can just select them to see that. But on the navigation pane, also for each of these elements, you also have a status tab that you can see those. Okay. Transcoding units, if you have transcoding units, you'll see another button appear here. So to add a transcoding unit, one of the steps you need to do is go in the web profiles and add, yes, I have a transcoding unit. Right, so you just need to select that, and it's going to appear here. And then you'll see one of those devices here if it has been added as a transcoding unit. So mainly the only thing you need to do is say the serial number of the device that you have transcoding on. And then you can see more data on that unit. So features license on the device. Sensors, we have sensors for the fan, the power supplies and stuff like that. So you can see status of the transcoding devices. Then you have the system configuration. So this is your panel on the left side. So here in hosts, if you click on hosts, you have host action. So for example, upgrade the Linux packages are done here. You also have to reboot the unit, reboot the system, or shut it down. You can do that here. Then you have the main applications and main IP interfaces. You will see them here. You will see the MAC addresses, the VLANs that you have configured, if they are up. This part here is for SIP, SIP TLS. These are for TLS. SIP register filtering. So we have some elements to filter registration requests. And then SIP domains, you can configure the domains we can receive in the system, and which registrar they are assigned to if we need that. Okay. Okay, the NAPs, you saw that before. These are networks you can reach or receive calls from. And then you have the profiles that can tune those networks for different situations. So you can tune the codecs that will be used, RTB bypass, we saw that. There's a list of options. We'll go through that later. And then down here you have call routes and routing scripts. So if you have just regular routes in the static table, then you have here routing scripts is to adjust for different scenarios. Like if we want to add radius routing, it's in the routing script. If you want to add black and white listing, is in the routing scripts. Right, so you have to go here to work on that. DNS for SIP. Security here. Well, most of the time there's nothing much you need to do here, but you can add manual rules. So that's where you would go to add the manual rules. Otherwise, they are all handled automatically. Or if you want to tune the call rate you will allow on the specific networks. Okay, so you can configure that here too. You have network address translation, so specific configuration for network address translation, and then change the date, configure SNMP, and also access port like HTTPS is configured here in services.
Can I ask you a question? When you're using the NAT from the SBC,
Yes.
have you tested it like for provisioning devices, automatically rebooting devices from a provisioning server?
No.
Okay.
So you would want to send commands to the remote?
Yeah, exactly. Like I said, I have some phones and I want to reboot 5 phones and select them and say redo them.
No. Wait, what protocol is it using to send?
I only use TCP, no UDP.
TCP, but what is over TCP?
Okay.
Is it a special application that sends special commands? No.
No. Yeah. It's just something like resync or whatever the case is, you know.
Resync?
Yeah, stuff like that. Yeah, actually it's through HTTP.
Ah, okay.
So the provisioning is done through HTTP, not through SIP.
Yes. We would need to verify this.
The registration pass through,
Yeah.
you're just passing that registration.
Yeah, exactly.
So that means my SIP server will still know what the private address.
Yes,
of the
exactly.
other end is.
Yes.
Okay.
It knows the IP. However, these messages could be blocked if they're not using exactly the same path, right? Or the same port, same. Right. They need if it's like if it's a SIP UDP connection and you try to pass TCP on there, it's not gonna pass,
Okay.
right?
No, it's all TLS anyway, because they're all registering the TLS.
Okay.
So via HTTPS. So
Okay. So, but yeah. So HTTPS by default is on port 443, right? So we could allow this port to go through, but that would need to be configured manually, right? Otherwise, if you just have the SIP TLS, it's not gonna, unless it's using the, wow, okay. We need to verify.
okay.
But there could be some tuning to do there.
Okay.
Okay, almost done on this one. System configuration. Yeah, we talked about this routing script a little bit, but label routing, I don't know if, yeah, someone is using digit maps, so that's, we call it label routing, or here in the menu it's called route sets. So this allows to configure this particular mode of operation. That means receiving, analyzing any digits that are received and be able to route anywhere, right, for specific strings of digits. And in the routing scripts, you can also use NAPs, and the way to do that is to create NAP columns. Here you have custom information that you can get from the routing script to know this snap is used for this particular scenario. All right, so you can configure this here. I'll have some examples on that. Radius configuration, so it's configure the radius server, either for authentication or accounting. Okay, 2 modes for radius. You need an external radius server that we can reach. You have FileDB here to upload special files. So most of the time these are used in the routing scripts. So you can upload files that are used by the routing engine. And if you use play files, then you can upload prompts from the web interface here. In the maintenance section, new versions, packages, licenses. Okay? So if you want to upgrade your license, install your new version. Your audit logs are here. Okay? So you can go here and see what has been changed in the configuration. And also you have other system logs that are accessible from the web interface. But on my side, I prefer to go directly with the SSH to have access to those system logs, or download them with the here report, or how I call it, TB report. So you just download all the system logs for a specific time period, and you can analyze what happened in those times, between those times. Then you have here the live call traces. So you can see calls that come in the system. And we were talking about dropping live calls. Well, in the live call trace, if you have a call that is active and you have access to the web interface, you can go and drop a call. Right? If you see that this call is an illegal call, you can force it. You can also do that with the RESTful APIs to drop some of the calls. Right? But from the web portal, you can do that as well. But mostly you see here calls that came in, what number they dialed, where it went. Then you have test calls here. These are actually real test calls. All right? So when you press test call and you say outgoing call, it's going to generate a real call outside. And if you have transcoding, you can also play a file and record what the other side is sending to you. Okay? So you can really test if the communication is going. In the test call also, you can do, instead of an outgoing call, you can simulate an incoming call. Right, so when you simulate the incoming call, it goes through all your routes that you have configured. It goes through your routing scripts to make sure it's working as you want it, and then makes the outgoing call if the call was successful, or if the routing was successful. Okay?
So the only thing it doesn't test is the RTP?
Well, it can test the RTP, but you need the transcoding. You need the transcoding device to generate the file. Does it send, Nicole, on test call, does it send the RTP even if we don't select? It must send the RTP anyway. Yeah. Probably just silence RTP, eh?
Yeah, you always send RTP.
Always send the RTP. So if you have the transcoding device, you can send a specific file. So the other one that answers can hear the file. Otherwise, we still send the RTP, but it's silence. Did that answer your question? Or?
Yeah, although I'm thinking, so to expand on that if it sends silence, you're still going to see the signal end to end when you do wired capture, right?
You see the RTP, all the RTP packets, yes.
Okay, so you can still do a call, you can still test it.
Yes,
You just
I see.
don't have an audio.
I see what you mean. You can see if you receive the right number of packets.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
So you can compare send and receive.
Yep, absolutely.
Good, perfect.
Yep.
So with the call trace, where is that stored, and then can it be dumped to an external source?
Where is it dumped? It's on a specific directory on the SBC. Okay. I'll show you when we do the call trace because I never remember exactly. And what's your second question?
Can it be sent somewhere else?
Can it be sent? Sorry. Yes. Okay. So you have two things. You have first the memory. Okay. So the call trace has a specific memory size that you assign. So you can configure how much memory you want to allocate here. If you have a server with many memory, you can use the maximum, which I think is 100,000 call legs that you can have, okay? And this you can access right away from the web interface. Once once the buffer is full, it starts, or it always writes to disk. Anyway, it writes them to disk. You can get this file. Now, the problem with this file is that you cannot just read it because it's compressed in a way that doesn't take too much space. Unfortunately, the only way to see it is through another web portal. So if you have a lab system, you can take this file, put it on the lab system, and then there's a few little commands to do to upload it, and then you can see it in the web interface. Okay, so I'll show you this procedure.
This is not a PCAP file.
It is not a PCAP file. This call trace here is not a PCAP file. You can also get a real trace. The difference is that call trace by default here is always running. Unless you decide to stop it, it's always running. So it's always capturing those call trace and then rotating the files if they get too old, right? It's just rotating the file. The Wireshark trace, you need to start it. All right, so you say, I want to capture a signaling trace. It's going to capture for some time, and then you will stop it later, and you get the Wireshark trace.
Is the call trace of those files, you said the files are compressed, is that a proprietary?
Proprietary. So unfortunately, we didn't do a tool, an external tool to decode it. When they did that, they ran out of time, and they said, just use another web portal. So okay, it's feasible.
Okay. But you can dig down in each call, so you can actually click on the call and it will open up.
Yeah. So the compressed file, if you take it, put it on another web portal, you have the same thing as if you had the real call. So you can open it up. Let's say you have a route retries that have been done. You will see all the route retries in there, different routes, what codec it used for this route, and then you get at the end you get the results. So how many packets were received, if there were errors.
Is there a purge of these files?
Is there a?
Purge.
These files?
You mean what is in memory to be purged to the disk? Or yes? That's what I'm not absolutely certain, but I think after a certain amount they're going to be pushed to the disk, but I'm not sure how quick they are pushed to the disk. But I think you get all the files quickly still.
Right within the call trace window, when you look at the call, you see the two legs, you see inbound and outbound.
Yeah.
You can actually click on
Yes.
it and it will expand.
Yes.
And give you that extra information.
Exactly.
It's not as much as a PCAP,
It's not as much as the PCAP.
but it's still pretty good.
Yeah.
It would be nice to be able to dump that to like a MySQL or Postgre and then be able to use that
Yeah, you're right.
in a different tool.
Would be good,
So
eh?
We run,
Well-
we run Void Monitor.
VoIP Monitor is a nice
And-
tool.
and,
It's a great tool.
So
Yeah.
we run that, but we're actually having trouble on the SBC with Void Monitor. It's not able to sniff the RTP packet the way you're setting up the NICs.
Yeah.
And so we've worked with them and you, but it's still unable to sniff the packet right now the way you manage the NICs.
It's
So unless we can dump the packet out to Void Monitor itself,
Yeah,
I think it's the only choice we have as well.
yeah. So the problem we have is TB router, right? To be able to reach 60,000 calls, 60,000 sessions with RTP, we can't just say, well, we're just going to copy. No, wait. We're using up this. I understand that for 500 sessions it would be totally feasible, and maybe at some point we'll decide to do something that is possible. But ideally, we would integrate VoIP Monitor, in the same tool. We looked at it before. It's possible. It's just, yeah. VoIP Monitor is a great tool for sure.
I'm actually using Homer instead of Void Monitor.
Homer?
Yeah.
Homer? You're using Homer?
Same, no, I haven't used any of it.
Okay.
I use-
But you know about it.
Same thing.
So very, very similar. I found with Void Monitor, I was using a third-party knockoff of Void Monitor, or rebrand.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
It fell down after like 100-something concurrent calls. So. Homer doesn't. Homer, I'm able to run a database for
Oh, okay.
many, many more, like 600-700, no problem. So,
600-700.
yeah,
What about 50,000?
50,000, I don't know.
Yeah. So
I don't care, we're not there.
yeah. Exactly.
I'll tell you that.
Yeah. So yeah.
So I guess the key is to be able to take those records, those logs, and dump it somewhere.
Yeah. So with TB router, you can go in TB router and capture what TB router is seeing. All right. So you just press P and you capture what he's seeing. All right. So then you get all the RTP, or everything. Right. The SIP, the RTP. However, again, if you're running a lot of traffic, then the logs fill up quickly. Right. So so there's no super good solution. So it's something in between getting a call trace, a good call trace, getting a SIP Wireshark, which could be enough, or getting SIP and RTP with TB router. But again, the window could be limited depending on the amount of traffic you have.
Or you can't do it after the fact.
And you cannot do it after the fact. Exactly. So call trace is always running, so that saves you there. So yeah, so there's some work to do there for sure. Yeah, so I told you about the audit logs already. So you see here in that page here, you have the resource name. So that is who made the change? Who made the change? What did they change? Let's say, for example, they root updated the NAP on SBC2 or the NAP SBC2. And then if you click on show over there, you will see what has been changed. Right? So the old value and the new value. Well, this is just an activate. Yeah, this is the activate. So you see also when it was activated. And we've seen many times customers who have did a lot of changes and they didn't activate the configuration. And then say, well, my changes are not working, right?
Yeah.
So it's an easy mistake to forget to activate the configuration. But here in the audit logs, you will see, for example, if you click on NAP here, or NAP here, I should say, show the NAP. If you click on here, you'll get to the NAP. If you click on here, you'll see what was changed. And then you'll see maybe the NAP IP was changed. So you can see that. Okay, overview of the web interface. It's good?
Yeah.
Okay.
Congratulations, you're making great progress. Time to move on to the next module by clicking on the box over here.